Coming to paperback and e-readers, John Haynes, A Thorn in My Side. The man who rules the world takes on an agent from the CIA from the Black Boule in this action-packed all-new John Haynes series adventure. Pre-order your copy of John Haynes' A Thorn in My Side at Amazon.com and other online booksellers. A highly decorated member of the Green Berets allegedly took his life before detonating explosives which blew up a Cybertruck outside of the Trump Hotel in Las Vegas on New Year's Day.
Major developments in the investigation into the man behind the Cybertruck explosion in Las Vegas. Late today, police saying the driver left behind notes on his phone, detailing his actions and clues to a possible motive. Newly released surveillance video shows Army Green Beret Matthew Livelsberger at a Tesla charging station during his trip to Las Vegas. That chilling video of his final destination, the Trump Hotel. Authorities say Livelsberger died by suicide just before that blast. And they say in the notes he left behind, he railed against the United States, but he held no animosity toward the president-elect. And he wrote, quote, "This was not a terrorist attack. It was a wake-up call." ABC's Mola Lenghi leads us off in Las Vegas again tonight.
Tonight, authorities saying the highly decorated Green Beret suspected of using explosives to blow up that Cybertruck outside of the Trump Hotel in Las Vegas left behind notes found on his cell phone, providing clues to a possible motive.
And in there, you can read a couple of the excerpts. "We are the United States of America, the best country, people to ever exist. But right now, we are terminally ill and headed towards collapse. This was not a terrorist attack. It was a wake-up call. Americans only pay attention to spectacles and violence. What better way to get my point across than a stunt with fireworks and explosives? Why did I personally do it now? I need to cleanse my mind of the brothers I've lost and relieve myself of the burden of the lives I took."
Officials confirming that 37-year-old Matthew Livelsberger died by suicide just before the explosion. Master Sergeant Livelsberger was on approved leave from his base in Germany. A senior U.S. official telling ABC News there had been no red flags. Authorities releasing these new surveillance images showing him at a Tesla charging station as he made his way from Colorado to New Mexico, Arizona, and Nevada. That Cybertruck rented via the app Turo. Livelsberger pulling into the hotel valet at 7:35 a.m. Wednesday before pulling out, returning an hour later. And then, 17 seconds later, the explosion. 7 bystanders injured. Sources say Livelsberger was divorced and had recently remarried, his wife reportedly telling authorities he'd been out of the house in Colorado Springs since Christmas following a dispute over infidelity. And while investigators say they found those notes railing against the condition of the United States, they say the soldier held no animosity towards President-elect Trump.
We've found that the subject held no animosity towards the president-elect. The Army indicates that he likely suffered from PTSD, and we are also aware that there were potential other family issues or personal grievances in his own life that may have been contributing factors.
Investigators scouring the suspect's background, FBI and local police searching this townhome in Colorado Springs. Neighbors stunned.
He seemed normal. His wife is very nice. They just had a baby.
Well, Mary, late today, the sheriff here in Las Vegas saying they are aware of a podcast claiming to have a letter from Matthew Livelsberger mentioning recent drone sightings in the Northeast and claiming that he was being followed by federal investigators. Now, authorities say they're not 100% certain it came from him, but they do believe it did. Mary?
Mola Lenghi with the disturbing new details tonight. Mola, thank you.
Now, in this alleged incident that took place on the first day of 2025, Matthew Livelsberger, a decorated member of the U.S. military as a Green Beret, drove a rented Cybertruck up to the Trump Hotel in Las Vegas, and after taking his life with a gunshot wound, this Cybertruck wound up exploding and injuring 7 people and causing lots of damage to the facade of the Trump Hotel. Now, in the aftermath of this explosion, it has been revealed that Matthew Livelsberger allegedly participated in this act as an alleged wake-up call to America because he said that the country was being led by the weak and those out to enrich themselves, and he wanted to make a statement regarding the sad state of our union. Now, the FBI and members of the government who do investigations see this as an isolated incident, but when I take a critical examination of the alleged behavior that Matthew Livelsberger participated in, it definitely fits the pattern and profile for men in crisis that I talk about in my book, The Man Crisis. And it's clear to me that Matthew Livelsberger definitely was a man in crisis for an extended period of time, and possibly was someone who was a clear and present danger to most people, because after doing a deployment in the Middle East, he returned to the United States with a traumatic brain injury, and this traumatic brain injury possibly led to this man being on the road to being a man in crisis who could have been a clear and present danger, but sadly many people didn't want to identify Matthew Livelsberger as that man in crisis due to the systemic white supremacy and the white privilege that he was given as a white man. And because he had this white privilege, many people could not see Matthew Livelsberger as the ticking time bomb that he was, because this man, as he was going on with his life, was possibly, as I see it from my years of doing research on many of the males that I talk about in The Man Crisis, this man was a ticking time bomb who was basically simmering and boiling in a lot of anger regarding the state of the Union as related to the country that he served. And as he was simmering and boiling in this anger, basically what happened with Matthew Livelsberger as he was going on with his life as a civilian, he was going to participate in behaviors of living the double life I talk about that many males participate in my book, The Man Crisis, where they will have a world where they're making everything smooth on the outside, but on the inside, they are basically going to a place that I call the secret world. And in that secret world, this is the place where they feel secure about expressing their natural masculinity and their real feelings regarding things. They will basically, again, divide themselves into one world on the outside where everything is tranquil and fine, but on the inside, these men go to a secret place where they go out here to express their frustration and their anger. And possibly in the case of Matthew Livelsberger, he was simmering and boiling in this anger and seething in a rage regarding the overall dysfunctional direction that he believed America was going in. And as he was going out here seething in this anger, he was deeply frustrated about the country that he served, not really doing right by the American people in his eyes, according to what I read in several articles. And as he was deeply frustrated about things, this basically led to the outside world that he had smooth as related to his marriage, winding up with the one marriage wind up deteriorating, and then wind up with another marriage that he had gotten involved with and just had a new baby just recently, where that marriage wound up deteriorating to the point where his wife wound up kicking him out of the home after accusations of infidelity. And after these accusations of infidelity, this is where I believe Matthew Livelsberger's entire life fell apart, as he didn't have that place to have his smooth world anymore, where he could basically have that world with his wife. No, what happened with Matthew Livelsberger is like many of these men in crisis, his worlds wound up colliding, and that made his world fall apart. But when it comes to this whole situation with the Cybertruck, I believe that based on what I've seen from the patterns of many of these men in crisis, what happened here with this Cybertruck, this was possibly a plan that Matthew Livelsberger possibly had for an extended period of time. And I would speculate on that because when it comes to these guys, based on the pattern that I've seen, they oftentimes have this pattern to do something big for going on for many years. But what happened after Matthew Livelsberger was kicked out of his home, he possibly felt like this was the only thing he could do, because since he couldn't make life work in the real world, he decided to go out in infamy by participating in this act where he was going to so-called participate in a wake-up call. But the irony is that he couldn't see that this act that he planned for this so-called wake-up call was basically him participating in an act of domestic terrorism. An act of domestic terrorism that I believe basically was exacerbated by not only his traumatic brain injury, but also by him not going out here and listening to a lot of misinformation on websites, very similar to the soldier who went out here, and when his life was not functioning very well, this man basically went out here to the French Quarter of New Orleans and looked to participate in an act of domestic terrorism by going out here and taking a Ford F-150 and then driving it through a group of people, killing 14 people and injuring over 35 others. And both of these cases basically show me how, while the government wants to say these are isolated incidents, they definitely fit a larger pattern that I have been seeing evolve over the last 40 years as related to my research on the man crisis. And basically, when I look at both of these cases, like the incident that took place on New Year's Eve in the French Quarter with this man with the truck where he ran over 15 people and then took out firearms to again participate in a mass shooting and mass explosions. This the same frame of thinking here with Matthew Libbelsberger with this Cybertruck, but sadly many in the FBI and many in government don't want to connect the dots as related to both of these crimes to see how they are a part of a larger pattern of behavior from dysfunctional men who are basically ticking time bombs, because when it comes to our government, it doesn't want to acknowledge that we have a man crisis in this country, and part of it is because we don't want to acknowledge that the way we have been raising boys to become men is creating dysfunctional men in crisis, and the other part is many people don't want to create panic in society because we have over 100 million men out here who are just like this, and over the course of the last 5 to 10 years, they have gone from being ticking time bombs to becoming landmines due to things like the COVID-19 lockdowns, and those COVID-19 lockdowns leading to these individuals going out here and having their minds completely warped by feeding themselves lots of misinformation fed to them because websites like Google go out here and create echo chambers by their algorithms going out here and again feeding these men misinformation, feeding them gigabytes and terabytes of misinformation. And as these men are fed this misinformation, they basically start to get a radical perception of the state of politics or the state of whatever grievance that they have. And this basically motivates these men who in many cases wind up with either a mental health issue, or in the case of what happened to Matthew Libbelsberger, he has a brain issue that basically warps his perception of reality. And as their perceptions of reality basically are distorted from that rose-colored or a dark perspective, this is what motivates these individuals to go out here and look to participate in these heinous acts. And participate in these heinous acts because, one, they basically feel like they have no hope as men. Two, they basically feel like they can't accomplish anything because everything doesn't go the way they expect. And three, many of these men, because they feel like they have nothing to lose, this is where I believe they go out here and look to participate in these plans, to participate in these stunts, to go out in infamy. And as they look to go out in infamy, they look to again make a radical statement. And this is what they do as related to their extreme acts of behavior. And this is what Matthew Libbelsberger, I believe, wanted to do as related to things. He basically had a lot of issues as related to the state of America, and had these issues as related to the state of America, to the point where he looked to possibly participate in what I would believe to be an act of war against the country, because this whole thing was about, again, looking to, again, take the lives of individuals without regard for human life, and look to make a statement no different than a suicide bomber. And again, because he took his life before he wound up blowing things up. But this whole case of Matthew Livelsberger is fitting, again, a larger pattern and profile of behavior that I'm seeing with a lot of males, and I've seen with a lot of males over the last almost 8 years that I've been doing research on the state of men, and everything that's here with Matthew Livelsberger fits that state of the pattern of behavior I've seen and wrote about in my book, The Man Crisis. And when it comes to Matthew Livelsberger, he definitely was a man in crisis, who basically had shown some sort of pattern, again, of extremely, again, dysfunctional behavior not only due to the brain injury, but also because he was frustrated that he could not make life work. I mean, he had a divorce before he married a second wife who accused him of cheating on her and then kicked him out on the day after Christmas. And that possibly led to him looking to accelerate his possible plans, because there's no way he could get that many explosives before New Year, just before New Year's Day. I believe, again, I'll repeat it once more, that he possibly had a plan to participate in this type of incident way before anything was going on, and possibly had this plan to go on as related to things. But thank God, as related to this explosion, it only injured 7 people and was contained by the Cybertruck that he rented. The Cybertruck that he rented basically protected a lot of people due to its construction, but those people wouldn't have been put in jeopardy had this man gotten the help from the government. Again, this is another case of a soldier falling through the cracks, and I believe possibly falling through the cracks due to his white privilege. Ironically, that white privilege, again, people gave him a pass because he was white, and because he was white, they basically left him to be out here with traumatic brain injuries that basically changed his whole perception of self and perception of the world. And many people don't see how that was a clear and present danger to everyone, the same way many men out here are a clear and present danger due to the dysfunctional way that they have been raised. And many people don't really understand how dangerous people are as related to being landmines all across this country. They don't understand we've got over 100 million guys like this who are landmines, and it's not a matter of if they go out here, it's a matter of when. And a matter of when, because we have not invested in our men, and because we have not invested in our men to get them the help that they need, they basically are putting the nation in a crisis. Because, again, we have 2 incidents that happened on New Year's Eve and New Year's Day. I mean, this fits a larger pattern I have been seeing with the man crisis, with not only the increase in frequency of violence as related to these men and the acts that they participate in, but an escalation of the extremity of the violence that they participate in. I mean, we've had, again, one New Year's Day as related to the end of 2024 and the beginning of 2025, and we have back-to-back acts of, as I believe to be, domestic terror. And domestic terror because America isn't doing a job of taking care of its men. And since it doesn't take care of its men, we're having a major escalation of the man crisis that's making life just that less safer in this country. Now, if you want to learn how to identify the behavior of men in crisis to help get them some help, you can pick up my book, The Man Crisis, on Amazon.com in paperback and Kindle format. You can also find The Man Crisis at other online booksellers like Draft the Digital, Google Play, Barnes & Noble, and big box retailers like Walmart and Target. And if you want to see me make more videos about The Man Crisis, you can drop a donation to the Patreon, the PayPal, or the Cash App by clicking the links in the description box. That's all I have to say for this video. You can comment, rate, and subscribe. Now available in paperback and Kindle Unlimited, The Man Crisis. Learn why so many men are struggling to find their way in an increasingly gynocentric world in The Man Crisis. Get your copy of The Man Crisis in paperback and Kindle Unlimited today. Now available in paperback and e-readers, ISIS Legacy. The sorority secrets of the goddess next door are revealed in this all-new ISIS series adventure. Get ISIS Legacy in paperback and e-readers at online booksellers everywhere. Support Black-owned and Black-operated digital broadcast media. www.niceradionetwork.com. Nice Radio Network broadcasting 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.